Welcome, welcome. My name is Aoife, and I am a transformational health coach and healer for highly sensitive women. And I basically teach highly sensitive women how to heal themselves from chronic pain, chronic illness, anxiety, and depression using mind body techniques and tools. So today we are so fortunate and lucky to have the beautiful Christie with us. And I have Christie's amazing bio here. I'm totally blown away. She's a psychotherapist specializing in the treatment of chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. And she has extensive clinical training at the Pain Psychology Center in LA, where she worked alongside Alan Gordon. Anyone in the mind body community will recognize that name, to develop pain reprocessing therapy. And I love this. Christie's approach to treating chronic pain is based on neuroscience and rooted in compassion, which is totally beautiful and totally aligned. And we're going to chat about that today. So welcome, Christie. Is there anything you want to add to your bio, introducing yourself, letting people know who you are?
Oh, I'm just so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I feel like we're very much up each other's alley, and I think it's going to be a really easy conversation. So I'm so glad to be here. And the only thing I would add is how obsessed with my team I am. It's not just me at the Better Mind Center. They are so beautiful, the colleagues I get to work alongside. So I feel like there's a lot of positive energy in our space, and I know I'm going to feel it with you as well. So thank you so much for letting me be here.
That's amazing. And that's right. You have a center in LA called the Better Mind Center, and you have a whole team there. And you sound amazing. And you're all working together, helping people with these chronic symptoms. So happy. And so, yeah, circling back to the compassion part of your work, I would love to know what you think, like, what's the science of compassion? Like, why are we talking about compassion when we're talking about physical pain, physical illnesses? I had all kinds of chronic, very real physical symptoms in my body that debilitated me so much that I was on disability. I couldn't work. I was sick as a child. I was in hospital. And nobody, after 30 years of consultants, psychiatrists, like all these different modalities, could figure out what was wrong with me. And then here we are talking about compassion. So what's the link?
Yes, I love that you're framing it in that way, that when you're new to this space, when you're new to mind body approaches, and you're likely coming from such mainstream medicine, you've been going in and out of physician's office and doing different diagnostic tests. Everything is so pathological and structural, and you're just looking at every nerve and every vertebra. And then you land in front of you or in front of me or in front of our colleagues, and we start talking about how you're treating yourself, what's going on in your life. How do you relate to yourself? Who related to you in that way when you were growing up? And it can take people by surprise if they're not used to this way, this modality and this way of treatment. But my general stance on self-compassion is this is not extra. This isn't like we're going to get you better, and then if we have time or if you have interest, we're going to take a look at the way that you treat yourself. This is pivotal, this is integral to the work, because there's such an overlap between the way we relate to ourselves and what our nervous system is doing. And the way that we relate to ourselves, generally speaking, is the way that we relate to our symptoms. So sometimes I start there. I start with a client talking about, well, what's going on in your mind? Data to get me in your brain. How are you thinking about your symptoms as you move through the day? And we'll hear pretty quickly, it's generally tons of frustration. Why is this happening? Why can't I get better? Why doesn't anyone know what's wrong with me? And then if they've kind of bought in and they're a little bit more comfortable with the mind body model, they might say, okay, if a lot of this is brain generated, why can't I move faster? Why am I not doing it right? Why are other people progressing faster than me? And there's a lot of fear and a lot of pressure. Tell me what to do, tell me the schedule with which I should be meditating, with which I should be practicing somatic tracking, how much journaling should I do, and when, and what are the prompts, and schedule my whole day, start from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. Like, just tell me what to do when my symptoms come on. There's so much intensity, rightfully so, right? Because people are hurting, and they probably haven't gotten the resonance with providers a lot of the time that might make them feel comfortable and safe. So they're coming in like rearing to go and really advocating for themselves, which I have a lot of empathy for. So I can start there, helping a person recognize, what does it feel like to wake up and relate to your symptoms as if they are an unclimbable Everest. And every day they feel like you're doing everything you can to get halfway up the mountain, only to roll back all the way down to the starting point when you wake up the next day. It's just this endless journey of work. And I feel like I can get a lot of people linked into self-compassion that way, by recognizing like, actually, yeah, this is actually awful. This feels really, this feels unworkable. It feels unfair. It feels intense. I'm afraid of my symptoms. It's hard for me to go through my life this afraid of how my body feels and how my body works. And that feels like an inroad to taking a look at, if you have this much intensity when you're looking at the symptoms, are there other places in your life where intensity shows up? Does it show up in terms of how you relate to yourself, your goals, your relationships? Are you someone who, you kind of, a lot of us who are looped into this work know those sort of classic personality traits of someone who goes on to develop mind body symptoms. You put a lot of pressure on yourself, just in general, not just to be free of your symptoms, but also just in terms of how you relate to yourself. So that's where I start, is helping patients understand the way you relate to your symptoms is generally not in isolation. It's not in a vacuum. It's usually how we also are relating to our beings, our station in life at the time.
I totally, oh my God, everything you were saying, I can really relate to. And I just get flashbacks of when, whenever I would speak about my symptoms, I would get really upset, right? And every time, it was so many times going to a different practitioner, and you have to start from the beginning and talk about your symptoms. And then people asked you how you were, it was just triggering. It was so tied up in so much emotion and frustration and so much pain. And I was furious with my symptoms. They were ruining my life. They were, and like you said, it was waking up every day just felt like, such hard work and such a fruitless journey that I was on. And yeah, for me, just learning, making that connection to like emotions and the nervous system. And I think my biggest breakthrough was when I heard that the nervous system is connected to every nerve fiber in the body. So whatever was going on, and I loved biology. So that, I think that really helped me. I loved biology and anatomy and physiology. And also I was in that structural world. Like if you met me 5 years ago, I could tell you about every digestive enzyme and probiotic and every part of my body that hurt and why it hurt and all the mechanisms. So learning that the nervous system was connected to everything. So whatever it was, if it was my eyes or my bladder, my wrists, the carpal tunnel, the IBS, the endless pain and symptoms, that there was actually one, like there was one root rather than 1,000 problems and with 1,000 solutions and 1,000 different consultants to go to. I was like, I just went whoom, right? And
Yes.
one thing that was the nervous system. And like you've been sharing, what's fueling this nervous system, what's activating it. It's all the ways that I was relating to myself and relating to my symptoms and relating to the world around me, that was just constantly generating this huge amount of tension and this huge amount of stress in my body. And it was just going on and on and on and on. And it wasn't getting better. It was getting worse. It was getting sicker and sicker and sicker until that moment of breakthrough. And it was just like, and I just started to go another direction.
Oh my gosh, I relate to that so strongly. I remember that moment for myself as well, being that feeling of, I'm not broken, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. This makes sense. I don't need 15 different providers. I don't need 15 different medications or braces. Like I was just covered. I was like a walking robot for a while, just trying to support my body in so many different ways, and recognizing like, I am not broken on every level. And I'm not broken at all. My nervous system is doing something adaptive and normal. It's responding to fear in a normal way, but the dose of fear is way too high. So my nervous system is overactivated. But I think for both of us, Our bodies were not broken, and how lucky is that? But neither were our brains. Like, it's not like, oh, so that's all messed up. It's just, it was in overdrive due to the overactivity of fear. Just the dose of fear was too high.
Absolutely. And one thing that was a real breakthrough for me also was in Dr. Schubner's book, he suggested that you stop like talking about your symptoms, because if you met me a few years ago, like all I could do was talk about them, and like rightfully so, right? It was a lifetime of symptoms with no solution. I was having to figure out everything myself and navigate the world, right? So, but it just meant all of my focus was there. Um, so I started to stop talking about my symptoms, stop getting connection, like relating to people through my symptoms, which was really awkward and weird at first because I was clearly still in pain. I was clearly still like not looking great. You know, it's like people are you okay? And I'd be like, yeah, I just have mind body syndrome and that's reversible. And they're like, okay. But but it does help, and I see this in my clients as well. Like one of my clients, when she came to me and she had IBS and bloating, and when she spoke about that symptom, she was like so angry and so like just hated it so much. And I asked her, like, do you speak to your little kittens like that? And she was like, no, I call them my angel babies. And I was like, well, look how you're talking to your little beautiful tummy. And that really was a big shift for her, just that shift in like, oh, my stomach, my symptoms are my stomach. This is me. This is my body. This is my beautiful me. And it was just, yeah, just this softening for her helped to then shift things. So
that's really beautiful. I love that framing, and getting all of us back in connection with our bodies, and recognizing that through this process, neither your brain or your body is trying to torture you as much as it feels like that's the case at the time. I felt so betrayed by my body just every day, waking up feeling like, why is it always something? Why do you hurt so badly? Why does something work? Why do all the things that every doctor say it works for everyone else is nothing? This is just accumulating this feeling like, why? It's so much anger and hatred and betrayal at your body. So I understand when you're stuck in that, it's really difficult. So it's nearly impossible on your own without some semblance of resource or information, or even just self-recovery tools to recognize like, oh my gosh, there is a way through this. But when you're locked in, I recognize it feels like a betrayal. And I very much recognize for anyone watching this who's still in that even what I'm about to say might feel quite distant and maybe even frustratingly so. But this entire process, the way that our nervous systems give us this opportunity in a contained, extremely intense dose, saying every single way that you relate to yourself that is damaging to you, every single mode of operating that is fearful and pressure-based and intense and non-compassionate, I'm going to take all of that from your whole lifetime, and I'm going to box it up and call it mind body syndrome. We now know, but I'm going to put it all right in front of you. And it's temporarily going to take all of your focus, and everything is going to ramp up. You're going to do all of those things in a mega dose. All the ways that you pressured yourself before, well, it's going to amplify times 10. And again, when you're in it, that feels awful. It feels like, well, I was already struggling with this and now I'm struggling with it in pain. How is this meant to help me? It brings you in the door. It gets you in the door. It gets you advocating for yourself. It gets you lifting your head up and saying, this is not okay. My body does not feel okay. And my guess is, and it's very often the case for so many of our clients, is you had years of relating to yourself in that way, likely through absolutely no fault of your own. It's an adaptive learned behavior. It's a strategy to survive something in your environment one way or another, but that didn't get you in the door. We don't get help, generally speaking, for I'm not treating myself kindly enough. We get help for pain. So it gets you in the door. It's a learning opportunity. It's not your body trying to betray you. It's saying, I'm going to make enough. Instead of doing this in these moderate ways all the time for the rest of your life, let's ramp it up and make it so that you finally say, enough is enough. My body feels bad and I am going to get help. And when you can like lift your head up and away from that, then you see the full picture. It's not just how I'm relating to my symptoms in my body. I've been doing this for a very long time.
I absolutely love everything you're saying. And I feel like when you can train yourself up in the like just the fundamentals, like you can really understand the mind body teaching, so to speak, then moving forward in life, like my life at the moment is anytime I do get like sensations and stress built up in my body, I always see it as an opportunity. It's always a message. It's always, okay, what's going on? I got to take a minute and maybe I need some support. Maybe it's just, I'm not on Google. I'm not Google searching. I'm not,
Mhm.
I'm not like, of course I'll go to the doctor if I have an infection or, I will use all the resources available to me, but it's just like living from a different place. And that word opportunity just resonates with me so much because I felt like my symptoms and my body were betraying me and I hated them, just like you said. And now it's just such a beautiful place to live from, is like that there is always an opportunity, and I'm grateful for it, because if it teaches me to be kinder to myself and the world around me, if it teaches me to open up to more love, like that I didn't realize was there, available to me, then I'm like, great. Thank you, weird symptom, for like showing up and being so annoying that you got my attention, and we figured it out, and we asked for help, or we had a conversation that was really hard to have. So yeah, I love it. And I would love for you to share a bit about a reel that you made the other day. I connected with you on Instagram, and you shared that sometimes you just can't fix it. And this is something my clients always land at, because when you first arrive, let's say, at this place where you're seeking help for your symptoms, you generally have been hard and fast, like hard on yourself, pushing through, unaware of like how your body is at all, really just like pushing through. um so then they come to this place where it's like you're learning when to push and when to pull back, like when to be uh like, soft and kind, and take a rest, or when to kind of be like, okay, come on, let's get some tools, this isn't a problem, I'm safe, and when to push through it. But what can happen then is often people can think like also that nothing's working, when they come to these places, when there's maybe like life is stressful and symptoms are coming back. And so I'd just love to hear from you on this topic. I think you speak so well about it.
Oh, I'd love to chat about this. And actually, I love your language. I've heard you say there's a dance between acting on symptoms, meaning let's do something to see if I can feel better in my body, versus accepting them. This is what it is today or this season. And it might help, before I dive into that reel and what inspired that, I do want to share again, for those who are in it, who are in the throes of the cycle, who haven't gotten that first, like, oh my gosh, I can see this and relate to it differently. When you're in the loop of it, when a couple things might be happening, if you don't know what's going on with your body, if you're still in the diagnostic process, it's quite difficult to accept what's going on with your body. It's just too scary. You don't know why you feel the way that you feel. It's really isolating. You might be getting very invalidating messages from the medical system. So that's difficult to work on acceptance at that point. This is especially tricky because a lot of the times, if someone doesn't find their way into mind body medicine and into holistic healing, they may end up in a pain management setting where they're essentially told, hey, we don't know what's going on here, but just try to accept it, which is like the ultimate impossible task. So I don't think acceptance works particularly well there, or it's quite difficult. And acceptance is also difficult when you are in the fear loop, when there's so much fear of your symptoms, whether you understand the cause or not. Even for my clients who fully accept and then believe this is brain generated, we still have a lot of fear because the sensation is intense. And if you're in that pain fear cycle and it's very noisy, it's difficult to accept that because you're not getting clear signals about anything. There's no clear increase in sensation that tells you, oh, oh, that's such a helpful indicator for me that now it helps me relate to myself better in this situation. The increases and decreases mean always almost nothing because it's just so constant. So in those situations, I understand resistance to acceptance and committing to, I feel like I need some clarity here. I feel like I need some tools. I want to take action. So when someone moves to the other side of some of those things, whether they get some clarity on what's going on in their body, or they develop a sense of confidence about the way that their body is working and where the sensations are coming from, and when they've gotten, generally speaking, their fear levels down to a certain extent when their body starts talking to them, it's helpful to remember the goal. The goal is not, certainly not for my clients, and I think you would agree, the goal is not, we are going to eliminate your mind-body connection so that you never have to go through this again. The mind-body connection is such a gift, like it's such a protector. The goal is to be able to hear, be at a calm enough state, be in touch enough so that when a signal comes on from your body, it means something to you. And once you have that signal, then we have the question of, is this something I want to act on? Does this mean a change needs to happen externally or internally? Do I want to move? Do I want to take action to not just change this sensation, but to recognize this probably means that something else needs to shift? Versus, is this a signal of something that just is what it is right now? And it's pushing me not only to accept what I'm feeling, but to recognize that whatever I'm resisting in my life might just need to ease up. And this came up for me recently because I shared on Instagram, and I'm happy to share it here, that my grandmother passed away recently. Just the most beautiful, just a queen. So she's such a beautiful life, a beautiful person. Even her passing was quite beautiful and peaceful. There was nothing tragic about it. It was incredibly sad. There's a lot of beauty, but it was intense. And in the week or two after her passing, the right side of my body was like, I became bionic. It was so unbelievably painful and just locked. It was locked, just shooting pain, quite intense sensation. And when I was in it, I have to say, I know that, of course, I noticed it, but there was no piece of me that thought to do a thing about it. And part of that was, when you're in grief, there's a lot of other things. You're in some semblance of overwhelm. There's a lot of other things coming up. But that might be a pinnacle example, and we can chat about some other ones that are a little bit lower level, where there was nothing to do. My body was not having anything but a normal reaction to an intense situation. It might have been a little bit of a signal to, again, ease up, take care, but those were moving, that signal was moving me to take care of myself, not to do something about the sensation. So I think there are plenty of examples, and maybe we can talk through a few more, where the sensation is not indicative of a failure, and it's not a signal to act. It's indicative of a nervous system reaction that sometimes is entirely appropriate or okay.
I absolutely love this. I love this so much. And yeah, I pretty much have thousands of examples, but yeah, it's learning, isn't it, between it was when to act and when to just know that this is just a normal reaction of your body, and just allowing it to pass on through. Yeah, when I was moving to Spain from Ireland, I got some sciatic pain, and it was really beautiful for me because it was just interesting. I was like, oh, there you are. There's some sciatic pain. And years ago, when I was in my 20s, I had sciatica, and it was such an issue. And I was going to doctors, and they were telling me I had sacroiliac inflammation, and I was on all these different painkillers. But there I was sitting there. I had just decided to move to Spain, and then I got sciatica. And I just knew it was annoying. It was painful, and
Yeah.
it was but and it bothered me, like, in a sense that I was like, oh, this is like, it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But I just knew that I was like, obviously, you're moving to Spain, you have your own business, like, it's just, it's like a normal reaction
Mhm.
to a life event, or positively, or a stressful thing, like moving is stressful. So and it stayed for a few weeks after I arrived, but I couldn't tell you right now at what stage in this journey that it stopped. I can't tell you because I wasn't really paying much attention to it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really, like, I think I read a quote or a meme or something. Someone mentioned recently that the feeling of like powerlessness comes from lack of information. And when you have all the information, then you feel more powerful. And I remember when I was, really in it and really sick with my symptoms, that I just felt so helpless and so powerless. No matter how much effort I was putting into healing and feeling better, I was like, just I just felt so powerless. And for me, it makes me feel really like powerful, not in a sense that I have power over other people, like powerful in myself, that I just know what's going on when my body creates sciatica, or when I'm facing certain things in my life that are particularly stressful for me, that might not be stressful for anyone else, right? So I can find like confrontation or certain kinds of conversations really hard, or certain areas in my life that are more difficult for me. So I know when I'm growing in those areas, which is such a positive, like, thing, like I'm evolving, I do get these different, either like old symptoms or random symptoms, or like just a pain in my head or something like that. And it's just like, wow, I know what you are. Um, and for me, it's often for me, how I the most beneficial way for me to typically approach them is to like really love on myself.
Mhm.
I was saying, a client reminded me that I had told her to like hardcore love on herself. It was like, I was just doing what you said. You said hardcore love on yourself. Um, and for me, honestly, I just think that's like my response to everything now, because I was hardcore hating on myself. I was hardcore high expectations, hardcore pressure on myself. And so when I yeah, if things are going on, that's what I do. And I kind of have built up different my own kind of routine of what that looks like. And that's what I usually do with my clients as well, because like what soothes me and makes me happy might like just frustrate someone or bore someone, probably bore most people to death. It's like sitting there on the beach. But yeah, so like just building up that toolkit of like, it's a compassion toolkit, right? It's like, it's just a compassionate toolkit. But then also there are these times when when there's other kinds of action. But honestly, I just think like you only need a few little tools. And people often come to me and they're like, but I've been doing all these tools, and I've been doing all this, and I've been doing all that, and it's not working. And honestly, when you get the right guide, like who
Mhm.
kind of gets you, like I'm like super sensitive, I work with super sensitive people, but there's all different, we're all different personality types. And when you get the right guide or person who can just like tune you up in like these, like, just like
Yeah.
3 or 4 like tools, and you can just use them for the rest of your life and just get better at using them. Just
Yeah.
get better at hardcore loving on yourself and what that looks like, and when to do it, and when to push yourself a little bit as well. But yeah, and the other thing about the acceptance, or the like not fixing yourself, is my one of my clients was saying, like, she heard someone talking about how they said, like, if you just wake up sad, just be sad for the day. So it's like, I think people, because you are changing your symptoms and you're changing your brain, and there's this whole like retraining and reframing going on. I think that and like people think you're supposed to be like positive, or you know, you're supposed to change your thoughts in a certain way, but we forget that, like, yeah, like our emotions, like sometimes I just wake up really sad and really tired and it doesn't make sense. And like I don't dig around anymore. I used to be digging around, what's the reason for this? And what's like, what do I need to like journal about this or do this and the other? And it's like, wow, like, oh, I'm grumpy today. There were a couple of weeks ago, I had a few really grumpy days, and it was the first time in my life where I was just not looking for a rhyme or reason for it. I was just like, I'm really grumpy. I'm trying to phone my friends to get some like oxytocin or whatever, but like nothing was working. I was just like, everyone's just annoying me so much. I'm just like, I'm super grumpy. I'm just gonna sit here, hardcore love on myself, and wait for it to pass. Probably try and avoid people. But yeah, share more on that. I'd love to hear from you.
So much incredible insight in what you just said. Bouncing back to that bit you were sharing around, there's so much power within yourself to gain from knowledge. That reminded me of a time where I was in acceptance mode, and it felt like, as much as this is intense for me right now, I know why, and it feels like a choice. And this, it actually was during the pain reprocessing therapy is the model from which I work, and we're doing another research study on it now. We've done a couple in the past, and the first one was this boulder back pain study, where it was our first randomized controlled trial of pain reprocessing therapy. And the work itself was the work we do every day. So it was, sure, there are some times where it can be hard or intense with patients, but it's our wheelhouse. So the work itself was fine, not particularly stressful. I cared for the patients, but didn't feel stressful. But the setup was insane. The setup was insane, because I live in Los Angeles, like I shared with you, and the study was held in a different state. It was a 2.5 hour flight away. And we alternated me and Alan Gordon, the other therapist, we alternated kind of seasons where we were on and we were the therapist, but it was only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we came back to LA on every day in between to see our patients in LA. So it was flying every day of the week, because you work in LA, then you work in Boulder, Colorado, at state 2.5 hours away by airplane. And then you come back to LA and work Wednesday, Thursday in Colorado, and Friday in LA. And then you just repeat that the next week for a period of weeks. And then we would like high five, your turn. And then the other person would do it. It was not designed to care for one's body. And there were reasons why we did that, for the good of science or whatever. But we felt awful. I felt so, when I was in that stint, again, the sessions felt good. We could we could kind of come to and be with our patients, but I'll speak for myself. I was really in a protective place. In any time I was not with a client, I was basically couldn't speak. My body was literally moving slower, and it was locked. I was just a wild roller coaster of both pain and just tension and overwhelm, because it was just designed. That's not a schedule that allows for enough self-care. I would never sign up for that long term. But there was something strangely powerful feeling around knowing, I know why I feel this way. This is crazy. This does not support my health. I cannot do this long term. But I'm choosing this. I love this work. When I get through this, and I know I can get through this, and it's short term, I'm going to feel amazing about the contribution, or what I've learned, or what maybe the patients got from it, what I got from it, what a gift it was to have such concentrated dose of therapy with these patients. So it felt like a choice. I knew why it was happening, and this can get tricky when situations are ongoing. I knew it was going to end. And I'm not encouraging that we push our bodies past our limits all of the time, but we are going to, because I get this question a lot. Like, sometimes I get a stressful push at work, or sometimes my clients or parents might say, like, something really intense is going on with my kid. I can't stop that. And I can't stop my reaction to being fearful or incredibly caring or protective around it, or iteration thereof of I am in a stressful push. So what does that mean for my mind body healing? And I think it means a couple of things. It doesn't mean throw all self-care out the window. It doesn't mean you need to just completely abandon yourself. Where you can, advocate for yourself, create a soft cushion, create opportunities for connection or down regulation. Wonderful. But where you can't change the circumstances, I do think there's something powerful about looking around and saying, the way my body feels makes sense. I can do this. It will end. This is hard. I can do hard. My body feels that this is hard. And when I'm through with it, I'm going to feel like an immense sense of relief, a mix of relief and accomplishment, and I'll take what I've learned. I learned I'm never going to commit to a study in another state again. That was crazy. Like, again, I wouldn't advocate for throwing yourself into situations of overwhelm, but life is going to hand you them. And I just really loved what you said around that knowledge can feel really powerful because it gives us this sense of choice.
I absolutely love that so much. I hadn't even considered that, but that describes so much for me, because it actually means what that has allowed me, what this mind body knowledge has allowed me. It's allowed me to excel in areas of my life that I would not have been able to before, because even when my body, like moving to Spain or whatever, even when my body and the sensations and the stress ramps up, I know what it is. I know there's an end, or I can look. I know where to look. I know where to look. It's just knowing where to look. It's like you're just looking instead of looking there, you're looking there. And then you can hardcore love on yourself until you figure it out, until you know what's next. I love that so much.
Yeah. Yes. And I really do. I feel like I've said it a handful of times already. This is different from someone in the throes, right? Like it's different when you can't make up from down because the symptoms are just so constant or relentless. But there's a hope in understanding what the goal is. And the goal is not ridding yourself of this amazing, like, it's our superpower. It's our superpower. Everything that makes us so sensitive is our superpower. And as much as pain is really intense and uncomfortable, I would not change it. I would not change any part of my nervous system, because I'm sure you feel this. I don't mean to speak for you, but knowing who you work with and who you are, like, it's allowed you to connect in really profound ways with people. It's what makes us so perceptive. And that is a knowledge, like that knowledge also feels really powerful. Like, I wouldn't give this up. I wouldn't give up the fact that I'm someone who's prone to intense sensation in my body, because it also makes me capable of all of these other things that I love about myself. I love about my clients.
Oh my God, I love this so much. And I feel this is really speaking to a question that I get asked all of the time, which is, so how long did it take for you to recover? How long, like, how long will it be until I get out of pain? When will this symptom disappear? And I feel like everything that you've been sharing it's really speaking to that it's like shifting the goal, right? Is what you're saying, like, from, rather than like, I need to get out of pain in 6 weeks, or I need to heal my anxiety in 10 days, or whatever your your goal is. But like, I always say to people, like, of course I get anxious. Like, first of all, I'm highly sensitive, but I like do loads of big stuff. Like, I do stuff. I'm alive. Like, it's just like, but before I was chronically had anxiety, and I was like suicidal, and it was just all the time. It was unbearable and debilitating. But I can't really say, like, it's 100% not like that anymore. But I could never say, like, well, no, I never get anxious. Like, I'm alive. Like, I'm just like out here doing stuff. I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? But again, it's just always just like, I'm always just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I would be anxious right now. That makes total sense. Look at what you're up to. And then I know, I'm like, okay, hardcore love on yourself. Go do some tools, like, connect. What do you need? Take care. And then it all just moves. It's like all this energy that we are, like humans with dynamic energy, it's supposed to be just flying through us and moving. But it's like when you have the mind body, when you're in the throes of it, like you say, it's all stuck. And it's just chronic and it's stuck and it's not moving. And then when you can like soften and open with the compassion and the changing the way you relate to yourself and everything else, then it's like all these things are just allowed to like vroom, vroom, like fly through you and around you, which is what makes you human. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. And you said it earlier when you were discussing your sciatic pain, and you mentioned something like, I'm not sure when it passed. It eventually stopped, but there wasn't like a doing or an end. It just was done. It was done. I, I'm like almost nervous to say this because I know that it is hard to hear when you're in pain, and every day your main goal is, I don't want to feel pain anymore. I don't want to be in this. When will this end? When will this end? When will this end? It's an extremely valid question. I don't want people to be in that kind of suffering, but you won't remember the day that your pain goes away. You won't notice it. You won't notice it. And that is the mechanism through which you heal. It's this massive transformation of focus and investment to the symptoms, to the doing, to the work, back into yourself. And when you do that enough, it's just it's a slow fade, and you will have, I trust it. Like I really trust this for my clients. They will have this moment where they'll be doing something. The sun will be shining, or they'll be sitting at wherever they are, sitting at their computer desk or falling asleep at night. And they'll say to themselves, I don't remember. When was the last time that did it hurt? Yes. Wait, what? There's this moment of, I don't remember the last time it hurt. And that's how you know. That's how you know. You won't notice it.
Totally. This is one of my favorite things. And for me, like one of the last like things I was really clinging on to was the bladder syndrome. I had like, like got a handle on loads of things, but I feel like everyone always has like this, like the most like annoying symptom. For me, it was the bladder. And I was very focused. I was still like waking up every morning and counting like how many times I was up through the night with my bladder. And I was like, oh, it's my nervous system and everything, I was just still so focused on it. And I have no idea when it stopped. I just have no clue. And so when I hear my clients share how I see them and I hear them changing how they're responding to their symptoms, I know they're on the right track, and they're still so frustrated. They're like, no, but it's still here and it's still this, and I'm like, oh no, you're doing it. And then, and like you shared the slow fade, they're like, oh, I slept a little bit longer actually last night. And I'm like, yeah, it's kicking in.
Yeah. It's the best feeling. It's so cool to watch. I know just what you mean. It's like you'll go a whole session and you'll hang up and you'll be like, it's
That's so funny. It's so true. I always say, like, I'm like, you're kind of like, for me anyway, when my life kind of became more interesting, and like I had to make that happen. I was waiting. I was like, I'm not thriving, I'm stuck in bed or whatever. And I had to kind of, just like do this journey of like, deactivating all of my responses to my symptoms and myself, and then this like re-engaging with life, reintegrating myself into life, and training my focus onto the things that I loved and the things that lit me up, and then life becomes, it's just so much more interesting. It's like moving to Spain was far more interesting than the sciatica. In the past, it would be like, oh my God, what is this? What is this? Like everything. I'm like, I'm not interested in you. Like, I've got bigger fish to fry right now. So yeah, and I also love that part of the journey, because like my clients always, when you start to clear away all this crap, all this like, then like no one has to like discover their like purpose or passions. Like they're just there, they just start creeping out, like, oh, I always loved writing, or oh, I love drawing, or I really used to run, or whatever. They just start, it just starts creeping out of them, like what they love to do, and or what they miss that they would love to do again. And I also find that really fun because I love seeing people come alive again in like in what their gifts and are their strengths and their passions.
Mhm. It's one of the best parts. And for me, and again, added bonuses, they're re-engaging with pieces of their life that they missed, that they love, but they're re-engaging in a new way. Like it's likely one of the first times or the first time that they're returning to that relationship, that hobby, that passion from a place of regulation and compassion and peace, like comfort in your body. And you probably hear this all the time. My clients say, I just want to get back to, I just want to get back. I just want to get back to that. I just want to get back to who I was when. And there is no going back. There is no going back. Like this, again, the symptoms just kick up this huge tornado that bring everything that you've been suffering from and with and carrying all to the forefront. And yes, it's really intense to find your way back down. But when the dust settles, you've moved. You don't go back. You can re-engage with some of your old favorites. Those things are still there for you, but you are different.
Totally. I often think to myself, I'm like, wow, I'm well past the point of no return. You know what I mean? Like there's no going back.
Yeah.
It's like no
Yeah.
going back. But then people sometimes people say like, I'm doing it. I'm doing, like, because in the mind body community, they're all telling me to have fun. I'm doing it. I'm doing this, that, and the other. But there's definitely a difference, right? When you're like connecting to things that you love. And like, I know that the word like being present is like, you know, it's used a lot, but just you're feeling not completely hijacked by all your symptoms and your anxieties or whatever. And you're really feeling like you're there, you're in it with this passion or interest, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be like surfing and Bali or like these big things. It can just be the most simple thing, but it's you, and it's a part of you that you're connecting with, a part of you that makes you you. And you're feeling like you're feeling it, you're really there.
Absolutely.
So is there anything, this has been the most fun ever, and yeah, I wish we could talk forever, but you have a whole entire day to get on with. And so is there anything that you want to add? I'll leave all like your details where people can find you in the description of this video. But if there's anything you want to add that you feel like anyone who's watching would really benefit from, just go for it.
This has been so fun, and I'm so grateful to you for inviting me. And I just knew I would love talking with you. So thank you so much. It has been wonderful. The only piece I would add is for the people who are either new to this type of healing or who feel like I've been in it and I'm just not, it's not budging yet. It's not budging yet. We don't know when the softening will come. And I've seen this so many times where you might not be as far away from feeling better as you think you are at any given moment. Like everything you're doing, when you wake up and you're committed to caring for yourself and your compass is set to my needs come first. I'm on the list of people that I care about. And that's just a big change, right? It's our real most caring, wonderful clients in the world. They're not on their own lists. So if you wake up every day and that's your compass, I'm going to care for myself. I'm on my own list. I prioritize myself. And you aren't seeing changes yet. That doesn't mean you're not moving the wheel. That doesn't mean like all the forward movement is eventually going to get it to budge. And sometimes you just aren't as far away from feeling better as you think you are in any given moment. So just keep at it.
I love that. Sometimes I say just keep swimming like Dory. It's like, just keep swimming, like just keep putting yourself on your list of people who you care for, and like just keep doing it. I love that so much.
Thank you so much for all of this.
Thank you so much. It's been beautiful to connect with you, and thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing. I'm so delighted I can share your wisdom with the world and send people over your direction. And yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Beautiful.
You too. Connect soon.